Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to a Better Life discussion. I'm your host. My name is Marcia Trajano, and with me is my good friend, Anne Sinclair. Hi, Anne.
Hello.
I wanted to introduce our discussion today with the phrase, it's water under the bridge, which really means that something is in the past, no longer important or even relevant. And like water flowing under a bridge, it as it continues on its course, maybe the mistakes that we have made in the past cannot be changed. So, upon becoming aware of our mistakes, we often feel remorse, we feel guilt, and we are here to talk about this invitation to get out of our feelings of guilt and instead change our behavior, even if it's in our thought processes, right? To really start to address, correct them, most importantly, learn from them, and in doing so, becoming self aware. Discussion today is an invitation for all of us to understand how to confront our mistakes. Let us all shift our focus toward the journey from self awareness and the will to become a better person. But and before we can address that, I would like to introduce the program to anyone who perhaps has not heard it before. If this is your first time you're watching this podcast like program, please note that our program, the Psychology and Spirituality Weekly Talks, are based on the works by Joanna de Angelis, and it is here to offer safe space to confront, compare, correlate, and expand spirituality concepts from a psychological lens. And in doing so, bringing us insights, actionable tips, and perhaps some real world advice to help you and I lead a better life. Our program is sponsored by the United States Spiritist Federation, the TV Mansão do Caminho, the International Spiritist Council, and AME Brazil. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't done so. And if you'd like to check out our other channels, you can do so by checking www.spiritist.us. If you have any questions, please do write them down and provide us with your feedback, questions, any type of critique so that we can perhaps do a little bit better next time. We appreciate you being here today. So, Anne, we meet again, Anne, and we're here again to discuss yet another layer about the subject of guilt. And I invite us all and to talk about awareness and consciousness and the notion of feeling and the feelings of guilt and remorse and how they impact, right? They impact our sense of peace, our health, our own consciousness. And I was thinking about it as we're coming to our discussion today. And I understand that in Christian thought, heaven is a permanent reward for those who lived morally upright on earth, while hell is a permanent punishment for those of us who have committed sins and remain unrepentant. So, a key word here is actually to repent. And I was thinking further, we're really not able to raise an error by regretting it, right? And no matter how much we're stuck in this attitude, this thought, this behavior in your mind or not. Like we've done something wrong and we keep ruminating it. And in fact, there is really no benefit whatsoever to holding on to the memory on the other hand, of either what we've done, but on the other hand, on what we could have done. And for whatever reason, we failed to do so. And some people say there is a benefit to feeling guilt, but that benefit is really almost a neurotic a type of feeling good if you feel guilty. So we're going to talk about it, and I just want us to talk about how um, remorse and neurotic review and analysis of what we've done or we failed to do so, it really does nothing to us. We will, to use our Christian thoughts, we will go to hell regardless, right? So how can we do this? How can we really be effective in understanding mistakes, errors, right? Especially if we become aware of errors of the past. What can we do differently? Yes, under the bridge does not turn mills. So, Ed, tell me, if you will, what would be the goal of repenting? And I'm not saying feeling remorse necessarily or regret, but what is the goal in this discussion about repenting for a mistake that we have made?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, I've been reading the books by Joanna de Angelis, who tries to help us to understand where we might be stuck and why we have certain behaviors. So, for example, if I've done something that I know is not right, or like you said, I failed to do something that I knew it was my duty and I didn't do it, I
Hmm.
then recognize that was not ideal,
Hmm.
and the behavior that we have been conditioned to develop over centuries because of impositions of the church, of culture, of society at different times, is to beat ourselves up, saying, I am not worthy, I am not good, I am weak, and putting ourselves down and beating ourselves up. Why did I do that? And the context that Spiritism brings to us is that we are all eternal spirits,
Yes.
and that we were created simple and ignorant, and we are all destined to perfection, and that the law of progress is inevitable. So, yes, we might be caught up in a situation where we are beating ourselves up and we're saying, well, if your first thing is, why did I do that? Why am I so weak? I wish I hadn't done that. Joanna says to us, just stop. Says, look at your mistake and take it as knowledge. This is what I've done in these circumstances. This is the person that I still am. This represents my impulses, the things sometimes we do things to satisfy a moment of our senses. And it's like, well, sometimes I'll just make a parallel here. So I've been on different times in my life on these support groups for eating excessively. And then, you are contemplating the chocolate cake in the fridge at midnight. And so there is no nutritional purpose for me to have this chocolate cake at midnight here. And you struggle with it, and then you eat it, and you are really, it's really yummy. But then you feel really guilty. Why did I have it? But you can't take it out; it's already in. I just use it in a joking kind of way
Hmm.
as an image that people can relate to.
Hmm.
So how can we change that? So we need to have that awareness, that awakening of our consciousness, so that mistake, which was, for example, eating the chocolate cake at midnight when we were trying to have a more balanced attitude towards nutrition and health, uh,
Yes.
the impulse to do that, then if I beat myself up and I say, oh my gosh, I'm so weak, I have no power, my will is weak, this is me, I'm putting myself down, but I'm not really addressing the issue, because in a way, by saying that I'm weak, I'm justifying why I've done it. And then the situation will arise for sure in life again.
And it's
because
a victim mentality, right?
a
And
victim
this
mentality, yeah, a
I'm
victim of
weak.
myself.
Yes, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't be any better than this. And this is where she tells us, she says, just take that whatever it is as knowledge, and
Yes.
now think, how will I do things differently? You have to change your mindset. You
Mhm.
have to embrace a mindset and make a plan to do it differently.
Yeah, I was thinking, and I think it's important for us to maybe linger a little bit in the idea of repent versus remorse, right?
Mm,
Where remorse or regret, it really centers into now I am, right. A psychopath doesn't even know that he or she
mm,
is doing something wrong. There is no sense of empathy in hurting the other, so on and so forth. But if I am not a psychopath, and I have awareness that I am causing pain, that I'm making somebody suffer, including myself, right? And that goes right in line with maybe the guilty pleasures of eating chocolate cake at midnight. Hooray to those empty calories. But anyways, just joke here. But we move from a scale of no awareness to awareness that now I know better, but yet I made the mistake, and I feel remorse, I feel regret, but tomorrow night I'll do it again, right? And I was thinking, and with the idea here in the U.S., often, speed limits will be in the highway
mm,
either 65, 70. I've seen highways with 75 miles per hour, and if you are going into, let's say, an area where there is uh, by a school, right, for young children, or even hospitals, etc., that speed limits goes down to 35 miles, even less than that, some cases.
mm,
And I would say remorse is, oh, I know, let's say, let's pick up the 35 miles per hour, regardless of what is causing for that speed limit. But I know that it's only 35 miles per hour, but I look around and I don't see any monitoring device or any police officers around. So I zoom through 70 or even higher speeds, right? And I get home and I'm like, "Ooh, look at me! I travel faster than I should have, but I will do it again and again and again, even though I may have a sense of remorse. Oh, again, I'm doing something wrong, right? Whereas repenting, and I go back to what I was saying earlier in that Christian theory, is that if I repent,
mm,
meaning I become aware, and inside of me, my consciousness is now awakened, and I say, I will respect the signage. I will no longer do that, despite the fact that there is no cop around, there is no electronic whatever device to measure and to clock and to show me that I'm doing wrong. I myself limit the speed by which I drive in those areas. And I think this is quite beautiful because it's just a metaphor about everything in life, right? And
mm,
everything that we do, when we know the reasons for a certain type of limitations to our behaviors, we're free to do whatever, but it is inside of us, it is that our own consciousness that will dictate if it's correct or not, right or wrong. And I say that because I do feel that we are in for the long haul, as you preface the thought, as immortal spirits. We're here for a long, long time, and what was once correct, ethically acceptable, if we fast forward to maybe 1,000 years from now, we may look back and say, my goodness, how barbaric we were. We
Mm,
can give so many examples of that, where in our march toward evolution, for example, an interesting aspect of Western society, especially European society, where if you hurt my pride, my honor, I have the right to invite you for a duel,
mm.
right? And it would go face to face to whoever gets killed is now washes the sin of the other of himself. So that idea is so barbaric now to us, but maybe what all we have, and I love what you said, Anne, is the level by which we are, our own judgment, our own moral compass, if you will tell us this is the best that we can do from what I know. And whenever we go against that moral compass, then let's do something about it, which
Mm.
requires a little bit of reflection, right? Requires us looking at our inner self and revisiting, what am I doing? What am I thinking? How have I transgressed my own objectives and goals in this life?
And Marcia, that's really important because in order to do that, you
Hmm.
need to have courage.
Yes, yes.
The courage to accept that, you know, you've done whatever you've done, or you haven't done whatever you haven't done,
Hmm.
but not to beat yourself up about it and just to look at it coldly like a piece of information,
Yeah,
of knowledge, and say,
yes,
okay, I did this, or
yeah,
I fell into this temptation, I was motivated. Let me look at this and see, what does this say about me? In our process of evolution, one of the things that the spirit suggests that is really useful is our self-knowledge,
yes,
because then the more we understand what motivates us, what moves us to do different things, then we can think about doing things in a different way. So Joanna
hmm,
says that, you know, sometimes people, when they look back and they see what they've done, and they could have done maybe something really bad, they
yeah,
despair and they get
yeah,
really upset. And fair enough, you know, it's not nice to look and imagine that you've done, and whether you are alive, or it's in the afterlife. You know how they say in the
yeah,
afterlife, you have a video of your life events, all, you know, passing quickly, and it's like, oh my gosh, like all the different things, you know, you feel really embarrassed of lots of things you've done. But rather than having, like, trying to hide it like a child, you know,
yes,
when a
yes.
child writes on the wall, scribbles with the crayons on the wall, and then you come in as a mother and you say, "Who's written on the wall here?" And they look around, no, no idea.
I
You know,
didn't. I did. Yeah, I know. It's all
I did it, you know, it's a
cartoonish.
wall,
Yeah.
cat,
Okay.
neighbor. That in making a parallel, as adults, we sometimes behave a little bit like that as well.
Yes.
So just thinking that we have to own our mistakes, not like to beat ourselves up, but to recognize that we can do these things, that
Yes.
this is us. We
Yeah.
are not as, perhaps, as good as we would like to think we are, but that is not for us to lack self-esteem and not to love ourselves,
Yeah.
because we are who we are. And if we stop having illusions about who we are, it'd be easier to make a plan to change things. And that is, like, sometimes even, you know, sometimes we could, I give an example, we were discussing earlier. This is I know of a case, for example, but it is a common case. You have a mom or a dad who is terminally ill in a
Yeah.
different city or in a different state,
Yeah.
and the relatives are saying, "Oh, you better come and visit," and you say, "Oh, yes," but you don't really feel like going because it's not going to be nice, or you feel like, you know, you might have had a difficult relationship, or it's far and you've got other things to do, and you know, you don't like seeing somebody sick, and there's lots of different reasons, whatever.
Yeah.
You postpone it, you postpone it, you postpone it, and then the person passes away. And then you no longer can go and visit. And
Yeah.
then you feel really bad. Oh my gosh, I should have made time. I should have gone. And now they've gone. And it's impossible. Now they've gone. It's water under the bridge. You can't
Yes.
go to see them anymore.
Yeah.
That's doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. This is what Joanna says to us. Take that information and say, you were not able to motivate yourself enough to go at the time that was appropriate. So now you recognize that you have that in you, pay attention to it, because the same scenario might turn up again, and you
Yeah.
will be aware when it comes up again, say, aha, this is the
Yeah.
one where I
Yeah.
need to go and do a different kind of action. But
Yeah.
also, she motivates us to say, do positive action. So
Yes.
if you didn't visit your relative that was passing and was terminal, maybe you say, you know what? I'm going to be a volunteer in the hospice and go visit people who have nobody that can
Absolutely.
visit them.
Yeah. Can I tell you the
That you
yeah,
don't do to that person. It
yeah,
matters that you do that action, that you visit the dying person. So you can go visit somebody who has no visitors.
yes,
And
yes,
that's the way you can change the balance of the universe. And all of us doing this together, we change the world we live in. Can you see how
absolutely.
it's so
Yes.
beautiful? I love it because
Y-
it's really says, okay, don't cry about it. Go and do something positive.
And forgive yourself. Start by, I made a mistake. My
Yeah.
intention was, but I didn't. What is the lesson? And the more painful, the stronger the lesson. I have to share here, and something that happened to me. I, you know this. I was born in Brazil, and I came to live in the U.S. About 40 years ago. But I recognize many lifetimes ago, it feels like, that one of the most important people in my life was my grandma. I love my grandma. I There's such a connection between me and her. And it took me almost a decade to go back to Brazil for different reasons. And I visited my grandma, and I was so happy. The following year was the first time that it was Mother's Day, and I overdid it, right? So I had this box of letters and things that I wanted to share with her, how much she represented to me, how much I loved her, and how happy I was to have seen her the year before. And I was busy. My kids were quite young, and life happened. And I had taken this box to my workplace, and every day I said, I'm going to take to the post office to mail it. And I postponed and postponed and postponed, and she passed.
Mm,
I never mailed that. And you have no idea, Anne, the feelings of guilt that I was carrying for not sending a box that for 10 years I had not either. And I had no feelings of, I'm not telling her how much I
mm.
love her. And it took somebody, a very good friend, to tell me, you don't understand. She knows you love her, right? She knows. Forgive yourself, but like you said, do pay forward, right? Or in this case, pay backwards. Tell someone else how important they are. Do something else, especially in this case, the elderly. So I actually, you gave the example of working with patients in the hospice. I've done that, and it was something that it was not consciously I'm paying back for what I have not done, but that feelings of guilt completely were completely eradicated from my heart. I know she knows, and now I'm going to be able to do the same for those that cannot tell their loved ones that they love them.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Marcia. And comes to mind the
Yeah.
words of Jesus that love covers a multitude of sins.
Yes. Yes.
And it's so much better that we're doing positive action and
Yes.
changing the world by helping others and doing what we ought to have done and didn't do, or doing what we did wrong correctly, rather than sitting at home crying, beating ourselves up, thinking that
Yeah.
we're not worthy because we messed up on one
Yes.
episode.
And
Is
we're gonna, yeah, I'm gonna bring up the subject of neurotic. thought processes, right? Uh, we,
Mm,
we we're here to talk about guilt, and we're also talking about this this broken record, if you will, this loop of self-recrimination. And the antidote of that, of course, is, like you said, and in Jesus teaches to us, love covers a multitude of mistakes, right? So let us love, but let us love through forgiveness, self-forgiveness, and forgiving the other. Uh, be that person aware or not of the mistakes they have made or caused us. But let's talk a little bit about neurotic and neurosis, on how we can break the cycle of that victimization that we often put ourselves in. I should have, I could have. What
yeah.
do we do, Anne? What are your thoughts?
Well, Joanna has an interesting phrase that I was
Uh,
surprised you just said. It said, lots of people think of themselves that they can't break the cycle because they're
yeah,
weak.
yes,
And she says, you are as weak as you think you are. So, first,
interesting.
number one, saying, I can do this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
can do attitude. But also thinking like sometimes we don't break that cycle because we are afraid. We're afraid of failing again, trying to
yeah,
do something different and failing. So repeating the failure that we already have in place is kind of almost like a comfortable place to be. So this is me. Let's say you're talking about the speed. I speed, I regularly go past the speed limit in areas. So this is me. So I'm okay with that. I feel familiar with this. If I say, okay, I will from now on, I commit to
yeah.
respecting the speed limits because they're there for a reason. Um, I might succeed or I might not, and I might be afraid to make that commitment in case I fail. Because what happens if I fail? It's almost like is that pride, that vanity, and having so it's a new failure. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So psychologically, that's why it's so interesting for us to perceive in ourselves what are our motivators.
Yeah, on a very
It's a loop.
practical, yes, in a very practical, in moving away from our core conversation here, but addressing the idea of fear of failure, because guilt and failure are, there's a strong correlation, right?
Mm,
You feel guilty because you failed to be something, to do something, or it's in that mistake, that error, that failure. But I just thought, and when you were talking, something that is very common and especially common in the from a gender relations to women,
mm,
professional women, to because of the fear of failure, there's not aggressive procuring to advance in their careers. This is There's a study, many studies
mm.
on this, and I say to all my friends who are women that are struggling with advancing their careers, let us think about what we're saying here today. Let us confront our fears of failing by doing what we just said, by being forgiving to when we fall, when we fail, when we make mistakes, that those are very key moments in our lifetimes to learn and to evolve, right?
And it's just exactly that. It's just changing the idea that our mistakes or our failings, instead of saying being a reflection of
Mhm.
our inaptitude, our
Correct.
weakness, or our not being up to it. Say no. Joanna calls it. She said, "This is a piece. This is knowledge. This
Yes.
is knowledge that will help you to build your present and your future.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
valuable." So
Yes.
it's interesting because sometimes it's this idea that if we make a mistake and we fail, I think it goes back to like in the olden days and saying if you fail, if you commit sin, which is a mistake, you go
Yes.
to hell and you're damned forever kind of
Yes.
scenario. We
Yes.
reenact that,
Yeah.
and
I
there's no hope,
yes.
'cause we've made this big mistake. So we really need to like look at changing our mindset. That's what I would suggest, and just thinking, be brave to look at it with all the unpleasantness that might be in looking at it, but looking at it as a scientist would look at something.
Yeah, there's another aspect to
And
it as
interest.
well. Yeah, there's another aspect to it, and which is and is attributed. So I don't know how truthful it is, but it's been attributed that the word sin
Mm,
came from the Greek to miss the mark, and it
mm,
was related to an archer that has a target, right?
mm,
And commits the sin, which is misses bullseye, right? The where
yeah,
the target should have been. And I say it's attributed because I read somewhere else that that's not so, but let's pretend it is, right?
yeah.
And as an archer or any other athlete, anyone that is trying to do something, to accomplish something, to learn a new skill, to be better, in general terms, the archer, as he or she misses the mark, it is very important the awareness, right? Because if there's no awareness, the archer will keep missing, just point all over except for the target itself. It's very important for the archer to look at the direction, self-analyzing. What am I doing to my body? Is my arrow straight? And if it's not, let's self-correct, right?
Mm,
And and as I miss, then also pay close attention. What do I need to do from corrective measures to correct the course of series of actions to be able to no longer miss the mark. And
mm,
I think this is quite an interesting metaphor because of what you said in terms of sinning and historically speaking, our inherited culture in the West, and I'm talking West because that's all I know, if you commit a sin, right? If you make a mistake, you go to hell and you're punished for eternity. No, this is wrong. That's not the case. It starts heaven and hell or judgment is all based on your consciousness. So this discussion here is all about guilt awareness, self-awareness, consciousness. The expansion of our consciousness also expands our self-awareness and judgment to, okay, my direction, morally speaking, is now this because I can no longer do that. If I am committed, let's say now I know that the chocolate cake that you talked about, right, not only is empty, full of empty calories, but now I know that I have an allergy. Let's pretend to milk. I have an allergy to butter. I have an allergy to gluten. Oh my goodness, poor person, right?
yeah.
And also I'm diabetic. I cannot have that many calories from sugar. The awareness changes, right?
Mm,
I know, and my body will react to that slice of cake at midnight or not. And I can make a mistake, or I can stop making that mistake of eating something that will hurt me. And through my awareness and repenting for, yes, I shouldn't have, and now I'm doing, and I'm suffering. So let us be kind to ourselves. Let's be self aware of our actions, our decisions, and let's just understand that the more we grow, the more we evolve, the better we are equipped to make the right decisions.
yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I was just remembering here in the what Joanna says is that when you get caught up in that cycle of feeling guilty,
Yes,
and it becomes like you call neurotic guilt,
yes, yes,
she says it's like a corrosive acid that
yes.
drips into our emotions, and
What
it
a, what a,
affects.
what a, what a concept, right?
Yeah.
A corrosive acid that keeps dripping inside of toward our emotions. This is amazing thought, and I want all of us to be very aware of what does it mean. Go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, no, exactly. So while in the past, maybe we might have been brought up to think that to feel guilty is honorable or correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now we know that it actually doesn't help our health,
Yeah,
and psychologically, it doesn't help us to move forwards.
correct.
So, because this comes at this time where we have all this psychological information, and Joanna comes and makes builds this bridge between spirituality and psychology, it's because it's time for us to know this and to be able to move forwards faster and to
Yeah,
suffer less.
suffer less. Yes.
It doesn't mean that we're going to stop making mistakes, because we are not perfect yet
Yeah,
and we don't know ourselves intimately, and the
yeah,
motivators that we might have at the bottom of our soul, if you like. And we might surprise ourselves by doing things that then we look as, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just done that, that kind of. But yeah, I did it. That means I am still at that level that I feel, the impulse to do that, and I didn't stop myself, for
yeah.
example.
Y-
But it's okay. What I need to do is I need to recognize that, have that knowledge, and say, what am I going to do differently? And she says that the change of behavior starts with our thoughts. So we need to make a new plan, because our default plan will take us back along the same pathway. So in order to create a new pathway, we need to have it. So sometimes, like the things that we can do is like by to change our thoughts. I have, here we go. Post-it notes.
I love it. Yes.
One time I used to take phone calls, and I used to get halfway through the morning, like a customer service thing. Halfway
Yeah.
through the morning, I'll get annoyed, I'll be tired, and people come with the same queries and everything. So I made a challenge, and I wrote on my post-it, I said, I am here to serve.
Yes.
My
Yes.
challenge is to serve. So each time the phone would ring, and before I pick it up, I'd look at my post-it note. I am here to serve. My challenge is to serve. It completely changed my day, because I was having this challenge to keep on board, and
Yes.
all the irritation that everybody else was having. Oh, I can't believe people call up with the same queries, or all that.
Yeah.
It just went out the window, because I was just creating a new pathway. That I was excited that each phone call was an opportunity for me to practice my good service to my fellow human beings. So
Love
if you,
it. I love it. Yes.
whatever the issue you're trying to work with, look for phrases that might inspire you. Put it on
Mm.
a post-it, put it on your phone, put it wherever you need to, because you will need reminders, because it's not your natural default. So
Yes.
in order to make that, you need to work with it. And one of the important things that also we can't ever forget, and Joanna mentioned this as well, is that we can pray. Okay,
Yes.
when facing temptation, when facing difficulty, and we think, oh my gosh, am I going to do this again, kind of thing. If you stop and pray, the good spirits, your guardian angels, they're there all the time beside you, but they
Yes.
will not interfere with your life
Yeah.
unless you ask them. And sometimes you go like, I don't know how to overcome this. I don't know how to do this differently. Please help me. That's the
Yes.
prayer. You don't need to go into a whole
Yeah.
sort of mystical thing. It's just like, guys, I need help here, because I'm struggling. I can't imagine how to do this differently. I don't know how to resist this temptation. And they will come and they will assist us, for
Yes.
sure,
Yeah.
in the most unusual ways.
Yeah.
As sometimes the phone will go and a friend will call you and say, I was thinking about you, blah blah blah, and you completely get distracted from the chocolate cake or whatever you were going for. You know what I
or
mean?
or or the temptation of seeing yourself as a victim,
Yeah,
right? It's such a temptation to see
exactly.
yourself as vulnerable, because we all are. We all suffer. We all go through many painful moments, and it's easy to just give up. And so this is important for all of us. We should be able to harness our strength through the help, right? Through prayer, through self awareness, through self reflection, through our desire to grow, and to understand, like that archer, that we need to pay attention.
Mm,
Our biggest enemy now, and I believe, is not anything. And some people say you're the worst enemy. No, our worst enemy is actually our distractions
mm,
in life. We live in a life that has never been this rich in access points to knowledge, to information, to almost this voyeuristic culture of I can see. Right, I can see what's going on around the world, and our innate curiosity, which is how we learn as human beings. We just want to know more, and look more, and be more equipped to, and we can just say stop and use that curiosity with courage and with love and forgiveness to look at us. If we make a mistake, if we do not get to that target as the archer was in Greek times, just
mm,
look and pay attention and reflect on what am I doing that is preventing me from hitting the target. And once you find the root cause, whatever that may be, or you're not as strong in your upper body. I don't know, right?
yeah.
Or the arrow, as I mentioned before, is a little bit going to the wrong direction instead of being straight arrow. We can deal with life and all that comes at us at any given point. But
Mm,
and we're almost at the end, and I just wanted to ask you if you could, so I don't forget, if we could talk about the beginning of Joanna de Angelis' chapter on guilt. And I think she puts as, of course, that is not translated into English. So I'm going to use your amazing superpower of being able to speak English and Portuguese and bring to our audience here today. Would you do that for me?
yes. So this is a passage at the beginning of chapter 9 that says facing our conscious. And when I read it, it really spoke to my heart. So I'll just do it.
Mm,
It's a free translation, just a few sentences. But it goes like this. It says, divine consciousness irrigates me with peace. My mistakes are clarified and I become calm. And I consider the vast possibilities of balance and equilibrium that are available to me. In front of me is the present. It's elaborating the future. The past are the lessons that we have learned and the advantage of gaining knowledge that will support me in my inner growth. I trust and renew myself, and I become tranquil in goodness.
that's beautiful. And it's all about love, forgiving, but also mindfulness, right?
Mhm.
It's
Being
about
in the present, being in the
yes,
present.
yes, yes. So I think for all of us, I would say this is the secret of our relative happiness today in our current state, which is that just those words are beautiful. I have them in the description of today's episode for you to refer to. It's just absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. I want to say thank you, Anne, for your translation of those beautiful words. And wanted to ask, do you have any parting words before we say goodbye today?
My parting words are the words of Joanna herself. Falling into the cycle of guilty feelings is a waste of time.
Yes.
Take the mistakes as knowledge and plan to do things differently. Love and embrace yourself. You are the best version of yourself that you've ever been.
Absolutely. Thank you. This is, I believe, our final discussion on guilt. We met several times, and I love each and every time that we got together. And thank you so very much, and see everyone next time. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.